No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Pichael with League of Items. I'm going to do Esports Center later on in the video, but before we get into that, I just wanted to say thanks again to all the people who are joining the Patreon. I'm posting all of my picks in there, and we talk about DFS. So the reason I think that it's so important to share picks with the people who follow me is because that's really what you need to have a chance on DraftKings. Like, I can sit here all day and tell you, like, oh, well, this player is normally $7,200, but now they're $5,800. And, like, in a vacuum, that might sound good, but in reality, it's irrelevant. It doesn't do much to, like, help explain if they're a good player or not, or why they're a good player or not. So, the main thing that you should all be focusing on is, will this team win the game? Or do they have a chance to win the game? And does their chance to win the game give me any leverage over the field? So the way that works is if a player is 50% owned, but they only have a 10% chance to win, then that's a lot of bad ownership, because it's like the chances of them reaching their ceiling is really 10% when they're being owned by half the field 50%. So you can compare those kinds of numbers and see like good places to pivot off of. So let's talk first about my picks from today. I forgot to include this earlier, but the lineups are out for the LPL matches tomorrow morning. E-Star against BLG. We have Kingen, Best 16, Fofo, Wings, Shinmo, not positive. Xiaobai, Wei, Fun, Wink, and Xiaoxi. And then in Vici Gaming against World Elite, we have Cube, Aches, Forge, iBoy, Hong, Morgan, Beishang, Teachermod, Jiaomeng, and Missing. So, let's take a look at the odds. E-Star, 74% favorite against BLG. This line is bad. I think that BLG has a higher percent chance to win than the 35%. So that means that the value is on Bilibili Gaming side. I am not going to spend my money betting on Bilibili Gaming on a sportsbook, but I will consider getting exposure to them on DraftKings. I think that it's a very good way to be contrarian tomorrow. That's the end of the logic on that one. World Elite against Vici. I think that World Elite is a very good team. They are great on this meta. They were kind of the early adopters of the like Galio, Global Ultimates, playing like hard into the mid game with those kinds of champions, and they're ahead of the curve in that respect. Vici Gaming is more like what the meta is going to be in the future, with playing around their 80 carry and putting all these resources onto that player. So at 63% to 44%, I like World Elite here. I'm not going to be afraid to lay 170 to make 100 on World Elite. I think that there are chances they lose, but World Elite has shown that they're a very good team. And I think people are still somewhat skeptical because they had a pretty bad early they were pretty bad early last split, but I think that is behind them. So this is a pretty important game for them to kind of prove they are in the tier above Vici Gaming. Obviously, Vici Gaming has Coma. There's always chances that he pulls out some kind of tricks and has like a unique pick or a way to exploit World Elite. But I think World Elite is like in their groove right now. I think this is a good time to be on World Elite. So I'll probably have some. I will have some Billy Gaming with World Elite. I'll probably have some E-Star with World Elite, and I might throw an E-Star Vici hedge out there into one contest just to make sure I don't get completely blanked. But you know, you can do that and still get completely blanked. So it's a lot of the time it's not even worth it. But those are my thoughts on tomorrow's matches. So let's take a look at what happened today. So I posted all of these in my Discord. To get access to the Discord, you have to join Patreon. Once you join Patreon, you send me a message on Twitter or on Patreon, and I give access to the Discord. And in my Discord, I have a channel with all of my picks for every single game. So let's see how I did today. So today, I had Invictus Gaming against Sunning. So I like both teams a lot. If you watched my preview video, you know that I thought that Sunning was an underrated team, and the meta is going to benefit them in the short term, and I think that it's going to only get better as time goes on because they're a team fighting team. The problem with a matchup like Invictus Gaming is that Invictus Gaming is more about skirmishing, creating early game leads, and then using that advantage to kind of create unfair fights later on in the game. And that's basically exactly how both of these games played out. Sunning was overmatched in the early game, but that's the kind of thing you can fix long term. So my opinions on these teams really haven't changed much. Let me get out my other sheet. Because before the season started, I ranked everybody. So Invictus Gaming is right above Sunning. So I stay true to this kind of thing pretty often. So Invictus Gaming over Sunning. I know that they were favored. I was kind of surprised they were minus 152. I think that this is probably 55-45, and they put like a lot of the vig on the Invictus Gaming side, just thinking that that'd be the more popular bet. But going into this matchup, the public sentiment on Invictus Gaming was very negative because of their bad performance in the Mid-Season Cup and last season's playoffs. Sunning, I mean, they've looked pretty good so far. They haven't played a lot of tough competition, or they haven't beaten a lot of tough competition, but their play style is something that we should pay attention to long term. I think it's very good. So for Invictus Gaming, we have the Shy. He died a bunch in one of the games today and actually lost lane. Didn't really do great for DraftKings, but you know, he still has extremely high upside. One of these games, we're going to see him playing Lucian or Jace, and like we saw him play Jace today, and he's just going to go off. That's just the kind of player that he is. In the jungle, we have Ning. I think that Ning played a little bit better today, but it's still kind of scary. He just seems like he's not fit for this patch, which I'm talking about the carry jungler patch. And right now we're in a weird meta where it's like right between carry junglers and focused around the AD carries, like Aphelios. We're getting more enchanter supports and stuff like that, which is going to make the AD carries more safe and volatile. Well, safe when they're winning, but volatile because if they fall behind in lane, then the enchanter is going to be useless and the AD carry is going to be useless until they scale much further into the game. So, yeah, Ning, good player, but doesn't really fit this patch very well. So as time goes on, I think it'll be a little bit better for Invictus Gaming. Sunning, in the mid lane we have Rookie, very good player. I thought that Orianna was going to be a good pick for him on this patch. I've been talking about Orianna for a week or two now because I kind of saw the direction that the meta was going, and Orianna is like a hybrid between a supportive mid laner and a utility mid laner and still a burst mage. So I think she's at a great spot in the meta, and a ton of pro teams are picking her now, which is a good sign. In the bot lane, we had Puff and Southwind. I mean, Puff plays okay, but it's the same thing in like football. You need a good offensive line. So if you're an AD carry, you need a good offensive line. I guess it's more of a defensive line, but offensive line. So you need your top laner, your jungler, your mid laner to play pretty well. You need your support to do a good job. You can't do it on your own. You really can't in League of Legends, in a professional environment. On Sunning's side, Bin had a really good game on Camille. Apparently he's like a Camille one trick, meaning that he plays it a lot in the pickup basketball style of game, like on the ranked ladder. S of M, I think he got outplayed today. Wasn't able to contribute to the winning difference that his team needed him to. I think that I still like him a lot because he has that Graves upside at this point that we know of, and that's going to be very good for the next couple of slates. There's going to have to be some fundamental changes to the meta to completely move it away from Graves and Nidalee and champions like that. So I think SFM's still in a good spot. Angel is pretty underwhelming as a mid laner. He could kind of fit the role, but I think that he is not a difference maker in the mid lane. Most mid laners in the LPL are better than him, I think, or at least even. Like if you're just average, then you know that's not the kind of player that I'm really too interested in. Then we go to the bot lane, and I think in the bot lane, I think Quan Feng and Swordart are both pretty good players. I think they're slightly above average in terms of bot lane, mechanically, and from an understanding the game perspective. I think that's a good bot lane to try to focus on for DraftKings in the future. He's already very popular. He was more highly owned. Quan Feng was more highly owned than Puff, and Puff was projected to win the match because he was on the favorite team. So like Jackie Love was 50% owned or 55% owned. Quan Feng was like 45% owned, and Puff was 35% owned. And going into the night, I knew that I wanted Puff as a leverage play off of Quan Feng because just the way that roster construction went, I knew that was going to happen. So that's what I think about those two teams. I still like both of those teams a lot. It was very tough for me to pick that match, but I just figured go with my chart, and that led me to a winner. Top Esports against JDG. I think that everyone loves Top Esports. I think they're slightly overrated right now. Everyone thinks they're the best team in the world, and maybe they are the best team in the world. But the same people who were saying, "Oh, Top Esports, best team in the world," a month ago they were saying, "Oh my God, JDG, best top jungle duo in the world. Like, who's gonna stop them? They're so incredible. I can't wait to watch them in Mid-Season Cup. They're gonna destroy everybody." And then they just didn't do it. And I was saying the whole time, like, you know, they're pretty good, but their mid laner's not that great. Their bot lane's not that great compared to some of these other high-end teams. So as the meta moves away from carry junglers, I think Kanavi's going to have a little bit more of a tough time in the jungle. But I still like JDG. I liked JDG before everybody started freaking out about them. But then everybody overreacted. So then I have to kind of like limit my exposure to JDG because I think they're overvalued. So in this matchup specifically, I liked JDG. I thought that they had a good chance of winning this match, but I knew that I didn't have to go there in order to get leverage on the field. So I kind of just mixed and matched a bunch of different lineups today. I basically just broke even, but I ended up picking Top Esports. So at that point, I was 2-0 on the LPL, and I was feeling good. Brazil. I don't think DraftKings is going to do as much on Brazil in the future, but I think it's actually a very good league to bet on. Like in just on a sports book, because the lines are pretty bad, and I think that the Brazilian public is very similar to North America, where they overreact to everything and they have best of ones. So you get these like extremely volatile opinions on teams. So Santos, I love Santos. They won the Challenger League or the Challenger Promotion Tournament or whatever. They had 2 Korean solo laners that kind of just carried them. They have a pretty decent jungler as well, but I knew that bringing those players on this patch into this league, that they would be a very good team, and they're 3-0 right now. Jackpot, their top laner, is very, very good. I think that Santos is going to be a very fun team to watch for the entire season. They get into these weird spots in games where they're extremely volatile and they could be down a few thousand gold, but they're just so confident that they're better than the other team that they take fights that they probably shouldn't and mechanically outplay the other team. And there was one point in the Santos match where Renekton kills somebody, does an emote to like, it's basically like teabagging somebody in Call of Duty, and then uses his flash, just burns a flash for no reason, just to like BM the other team. Ridiculous, but I mean, just crazy. I like Santos a lot. I think they're a pretty good team, and I'm going to be betting on them consistently. Hopefully they get some more of these matchups against like the higher end teams, and that's where we might actually get some value. But I've picked Santos every time they've played so far this year, and I've won every single time. INTZ. Just let me make sure. I'm not as familiar with every team in Brazil because there's only certain teams that I actually like betting on. Like I'll pick sides in all of these games, but the ones that I really like, the bets that I really like, come when I like love a team. Yeah, so Santos, definitely love Santos. INTZ, they're 2-2 right now. They were not impressive, and going into this match, they were 2-1, and I thought that they were overvalued, like literally just because of their record. Being 2-1 in Brazil when you're playing bad teams doesn't mean anything. Santos has played better competition, I think, in general, and yeah, that's typically how I pick what teams I want to be on. So Santos Gaming has already beat Kaboom, and they've already beat Pain Gaming. They've already beaten Vivo Keyed. So Vivo Keyed is underperforming this split, but beating Pain and beating Kaboom is actually like pretty impressive. That means they're going to be one of the top teams for the rest of the season, I would think. In the next game we have Pain and Vivo. I was on Vivo Keyed because I think even though Vivo Keyed lost a couple of their players, I think, based off of some things that were going on in the transfer market, Pain Gaming is like the Dallas Cowboys of Brazil, I'm pretty sure. Their 80 carry is the most popular player in Brazil, I believe. And I'll bet against that all the time. Just because I know that the line is not correct based off of that. Next game, Kaboom against Furia. Kaboom is in the top tier of teams, so it's always better to be on that side. Did I skip one? Flamengo against PRG. So I was doing some research on Flamengo, and they're missing their best player, who was their top laner from last season, but I didn't realize they were getting an import from Europe. B-Voy transferred over. So if I knew that, I probably would have picked Flamengo, but you have to pay attention, and I wasn't paying attention. In Europe, we had Mad against SK. Mad, just a much better team. I think Mad Lions is a top 4 team, or between 4 to 5 in the LEC. And SK Gaming, even though they've won some matches at this point, they're just not the same caliber as Mad Lions. Mad Lions is a good team fighting team. They have difficulty with the macro game, I think, and they will have a difficulty with the macro game in the future. So when they're up against a team like Origin, I'm not going to like them as much. When they're playing against Fnatic, not going to like them as much. But when they play like G2, someone who's extremely volatile, I would want to consider somebody like Mad. An interesting matchup is going to be Mad versus Misfits whenever they play, because I think Misfits is more on the Origin and Fnatic side of things, and Mad is more on the G2 side of things. But yeah, SK, there are going to be spots where like I want to have exposure to them, but it's going to be few and far between. They're going to need to play against a bad team for me to want to put money on them on the sportsbook, and yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to bet on them. 1, 2, yeah. Next up, Rogue and Schalke. So Rogue is looking really good so far. They had a huge DraftKings day, and Han Sama, after the first day of games, watching Han Sama play Aphelios made me really like Rogue. He's always been a pretty good player, and he was highly touted when he was first coming into the league, but he didn't really have a great team around him. And again, like, you need that good offensive line if you're an AD carry, and I think he has that now. Everybody knows their role, so it's a good situation. Origin against Misfits. Misfits disappointed against G2, me specifically, but I know that they're a good team. Did I say G2? I meant Fnatic. Yeah, Misfits against Fnatic. Taking down Origin means that's like a litmus test for, do you understand the macro game? Origin is very reserved, plays the game slowly, and being able to compete with them in that kind of game is pretty impressive for a team that has a new player on it. Not much more to say about that. I like all the players on both teams. Origin is just not great for DraftKings a lot of the time. G2 against Vitality. I picked G2. G2 lost. G2, like, it's tough to say if they're actually going through problems right now, but I'm going to assume that it's just a fluke, and I will be picking G2 again next week. Like, hopefully this... I mean, honestly, if DraftKings prices them down, everyone's going to be all over it. So it's a weird spot for G2. Still great players. I'm not changing my opinion yet. I'm gonna have to see some more bad League of Legends to get me off of them. Fnatic against XL. Fnatic won that game pretty easily. Fnatic, one of the top 3 teams definitely in Europe. Like their game that they played this weekend with Cho'Gath against. Did they play it twice? They played Cho'Gath. They've played Gangplank. These are like interesting champions that are not necessarily played by every single team, especially Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath gives you additional objective control, so I think personally that it significantly increases your chances of getting Dragons and Baron, which increases your chances of actually winning the game. And if your team wins the game, you're going to have a higher average fantasy point per game. That's just the way it is. XL has Patrick. He'll be good. Like, when we have some of these lower tier teams playing against each other, I think there is huge fantasy scoring upside for them, but they're not going to be able to, like, play this mental game with the better teams. In North America, we had Cloud9 against 100 Thieves. I was considering playing 100 Thieves in DraftKings because it's extremely contrarian, and I'm going to look for those spots as time goes on. More and more, just to bet against the Cloud9 win streak. They are a very good team. I am not taking anything away from them. It's just everybody has that fluke game where they lose. So I'm going to be looking for value betting opportunities against Cloud9. But again, very good team. You don't want to throw money away, but that's a team that I'm looking to bet against. TSM, minus 256 against Dignitas. TSM looked bad in their first game, but that doesn't matter. Especially against a team like Dignitas. You can't let these one-game sample sizes freak you out. You just have to believe in talent, and in the long run, talent's going to win out. TSM is much more talented than Dignitas, and they showed that today. Team Liquid against Golden Guardians. I was on the Golden Guardian side because I think they're underrated right now, and I think Team Liquid was a little overrated at 70%. I think it's probably 65-35 or 60-40. I think that Golden Guardians can compete with them. I like their solo laners. Their solo laners are pretty good, and I like their jungler. So that's the kind of team that I want to be on. And they had a pretty bad draft today, but they were playing Nidalee, and that's another champion that I want to attach myself to. So if I know that a team is going to be playing Graves, Nidalee, etc., I want to be on that side. And then the last game was Immortals against CLG. That's actually on right now. I'm not going to have any reactions for this one, but for the day, I was 11-4, right? One, two, 3, 4. Right now I'm 10-4. Right now I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, right now I'm 10-4. I feel like I'm wrong about that, but yeah, I'm 10-4 right now. I'm on CLG's side. I think that this line should have been reversed. CLG is a better team than Immortals. Immortals jungler was a coach last split, and he wasn't a good coach. He wasn't a good player in Academy, so there's no reason to think that Immortals is going to be able to compete against professional teams with a non-professional jungler. So that means in the LPL I'm 14-6. In CBLOL I went to 10-5. NALCS is not done yet. LEC I went 4-1. So it's 8 and 7. So finally above 500 in the LEC. They were kind of freaking me out after the first 2 days. North America, so far I've won all 3 of those. So we'll update that. 40-19 so far in the summer split. Pretty good. If you want access to these picks, make sure to check out Patreon. So that's basically it for this. I kind of realized that I shouldn't get rid of this kind of information. I'm going to be doing stuff like this in every single video moving forward. I will continue to do the Esports Center. I love it. It's something that is fun to do if I'm already spending all this time watching these games. So watch out for that. If you have any suggestions for other kinds of videos that you would like to see, please leave them in the comment section. Hit me up on Twitter, join the Discord, etc. But otherwise, let's get into Esports Center.